to make them aware of what facilities are being, just announcing that FTP is not enough. The exporters have to know what are the facilities they can now demand and use. So online services and digital services are being, the fact that they are now available is also being told to the EPCs through specific meetings so that they can avail these facilities. Then another important matter that I will like to mention, there are already a number of steps which have been taken by, announced in the budget. The basic customs duty on import of specific fibers and yarns has been reduced from 5% to 2.5%. This will make the raw material for textile garment cheaper and also make our textile garment sector more competitive. There has been hike in the infrastructure investments, logistics, transports, ports, Sagarmala and power generation. All these infrastructure related matters which are actually a big hindrance for our fast processing or way of doing business from India are being addressed through various programs by various line departments. So it is not just Department of Commerce. Department of Commerce is actually, it integrates the activities of so many other departments, and there are very many cross-cutting issues which other departments have to actually address. Department of Revenue, ports, then mainly it is Department of Revenue for the customs rules and laws, then port clearance, logistics, transport. All these departments have to work in unison to make this process easier for the business people. Apart from this, there are various initiatives that are being taken like Make in India, Startup India, Skill India, Digital India. These are other initiatives which have been announced by the various departments which are already in process. So we hope that all these macro changes will start showing impact on all the export oriented industries, not just textile and garments, but the entire export infrastructure is expected to evolve and improve because of all these specific steps being taken by the government. I would like to ask one or two questions regarding the report that has been given. While apparel sector is the fastest growing category in globally, what can be done by India specifically for increasing competitiveness? That is one. Another question I will like to ask is improving the working conditions, because is there any business case for improving the working conditions of especially the women, because the women are major participants in these industries. And one more. What are the two critical issues that India must address to remain competitive in the apparel sector? That's all. Thank you.
No, so thank you very much for the excellent panel. I think all the remarks and questions and points of clarification are very important and well taken. I learned a lot from, and I think we all learn a lot from listening to you. In regard to the questions that you have in terms of competitiveness and working conditions, let me start with the first one of working conditions, because also came in previous participations. When we were in Sri Lanka in a round table similar to this, it came very forcefully into the discussion because some of the largest manufacturers there thought that working conditions in this new environment is not optional. it has to be part of the business model. It's not something that you can bargain for it. You have to include it if you want to say in your cost. I mean, it's part of what the global buyers are looking for. So it's really thinking of which are the best models in how to ensure that you provide the best working conditions, and that's something that you know, there are some countries which are more advanced than others in how to incorporate that. No, I mean, certainly, for instance, we are going to Bangladesh on Monday. I'm pretty sure it's going to be also an issue of discussion there. In terms of competitiveness, I think as also we discussed during the presentation, there are two layers, if you wish, of the situation. One definitely is the issue of trade agreements and preferential access to certain markets, which is the part of product end markets, no? The issue of diversifying end markets. But another layer which comes very strongly is how the industry can be more productive, or can be more competitive in terms of being more attractive to global buyers, no? So during the discussion, it came several issues which, you know, India definitely will benefit from. One, certainly, we discussed is the issue of man-made fiber agreement, which you all are aware of. The second issue is the scale of the firm, because in order to be efficient, to produce, to connect with these global markets, you need medium to large firms are better positioned in order to either adapt to the demands from global buyers, but also to take advantage of economy scales. And also another important trend after the multilateral fiber agreement that is clear in the market is that global buyers are trying to outsource from less suppliers. So they are not going to bargain with 1,000 Juniper, no? So scale is very important. And the other issue is the diversification of products, no? And trying to identify your niche, which is related to the first question. I mean, all of these South Asian countries produce different things. In some products, they compete or not with China, and then they are trying to find their niche. For instance, in the discussion that we had with Sri Lanka, then they said, well, given given what we have, what will be our potential? So they are trying to tap into markets, for instance, sportwear that is now Germany or Spain producing. So they are trying to tap into certain niches on which they think they have the comparative advantage and could have margins. So each one of the countries at the end know well what are the mix of characteristics that make them more suitable either to be in basic garment or more complex type of products. So that those are some thoughts.
Will you allow me to elaborate? So I would like to follow up on what Gladys said and take a few points that came several times. But I want to start, like Gladys, by really thanking you for your insights. What we do with studies like this is to create awareness, to bring a topic for discussion, but you know better than us. So first point is we are in a learning position. But in terms of a dialogue, let me reflect on a few things that came. One was a question by Sean Ryan on quality, why the perceptions on quality. One that came in several interventions was the compliance and labor. I would like to say a word about FDI exports and relation with the domestic market, and then finally perhaps dare to say, to try to answer a bit your question, but again, with enormous humility. India knows what it needs to do is just thoughts about from outside. On quality, I think with the question that came is how come when we all love Indian fabrics, how come the buyers have this perception of quality? And indeed, it may come as a surprise. And when we deal with statistics, always the first question, maybe there is a problem with the design of the survey, the selection of the respondents, but when you look at what is coming from the other countries, it seems quite plausible. When I compare what I know about Cambodia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, it seems quite plausible. So maybe it's a problem of perceptions. If it's a problem of perceptions, there may be an issue of communication, or maybe we should really understand what these buyers are struggling with and try to find ways to address it. So I will not defend that the survey is necessarily right, but I think every time we get new data and we explore the data, we get new insights, and this is something to do. On compliance, the question that came is how come that countries that are not so good in terms of the labor situation still get around with it? And I think if I think about two examples I want to go to, one is Cambodia and one is Bangladesh. When Cambodia started in this sector of garment industry, it was really a challenge. For the US to let the garments from Cambodia enter the US market was really, under the Clinton administration, was really a challenge. But what really did the trick was to show the resolve to address the problem. And we got in this program with the ILO, our International Finance Corporation, which is the Better Work program, which was a very systematic effort to put arbitration mechanisms for workers because there was a perception that the justice systems were not working for workers, put improvement programs for the factories, training the managers. It was that showing that determination, perhaps as Mr. Dingras said, when a country is behind something and shows we want to do this and we are serious about this. So even starting from much lower. And I think it's the same with Bangladesh after the Rana Plaza tragedy. I think there was a reaction, and the Europeans were very strong there, saying, come on, we are not buying products from you if your worker conditions are like this. And there has been a very strong determination to show that, yes, they were going to move the factories to industrial parks where they don't have to have the generators on the roof, as was the case in Rana Plaza, that they are having inspections of the factories. So I think the problem is not where you are, is how credible you are in showing that, yes, we are going for this, we are serious about this. On FDI and export, I think nobody doubts that India has such a huge domestic market, that there is enormous potential there. India can grow on domestic demand for quite long. And unlike other countries, India has fabulous entrepreneurs, has global class entrepreneurs. So it's not like it needs the knowledge from abroad. But in general, every time we do studies, there are a couple of things that come up clearly. Export-oriented industries, the firms that work in export markets and firms with FDI do two things. They are more productive, they pay better wages. It's quite systematic. There are margins to be gained there. So if you think, perhaps there was this figure on the gap between wages in garments and in agriculture in India being smaller than in other parts. It's also because the other parts are more export-oriented than India. A lot of what you see there is to the domestic market. So there are gains, even if it's small, in attracting them. Last, and again, not in any attempt to try to give lessons or say do this or do that, but 4 thoughts on things that India could do that in fact had been said here, conversations we have with Arvind Subramanian, the chief economic advisors. First, I think, coming from several angles, there are issues of trade and how India integrates in trade globally at a time when Vietnam is already in the TPP, Bangladesh is considering the TPP, when there is this pending agreement with the EU, when margins are so thin, these things can make a big difference. So there is a part that is trade. I think there is a second part that is the overall business environment. It's great if things can be done electronically, but then if you have to bring the paper printed, in some way it goes against it. So there are issues of simplification, which again, the case of Bangladesh shows that you don't need to simplify everything. Doing business indicators, the one we use as a metric, nothing to be happy about when you look at Bangladesh. It's not that Bangladesh has a wonderful environment, but they were very strategic in trying to address the little things that were getting on the way. Third is on the growing to scale. I think the fact that growing beyond 100 workers becomes a problem. And again, I think nobody will say, oh, fix the entire universe of labor laws. That's probably more than their system. But you are building your corridors. Your corridors are ideal places to say where are the ports. Think of the eastern side, where one could have fixing these things without having to fix everything. So, and perhaps this will be a way to go, to reform really at the margin where it gets traction. I think those are the kind of thoughts one will have from